Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So I want to talk to you about whatever you start out with, that's what you end up with, right? If you start out with the truth, you're going to end up with the truth. But if you start out with a lie, you're going to end up with a lie. So a lot of you, when you're asked, or if you're asked, and if you're not, people should start asking, what's your origins when it comes to, how you started? What is your true origins? Like, for example, where did your method derive from? What was the origin of your method? Right? And most of you are probably going to start studying now because you don't know the answer. You can't tell somebody where the origin of your method started. For example, if I say, well, how did the world begin? I'm going to the Bible, right? And I know there was no beginning, right? Beginning didn't even exist until the Most High God called it into existence, and therefore it became beginning. But beginning didn't exist. So the Most High God was on the other side of beginning, and then he said, let there be. And that's beginning, right? So you can't go to uh, a guy in Mexico who taught me how to, that's not the origin. That's somebody who taught you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that person who taught you, but the question is, what's your origin? Because, and the reason I'm making it difficult is because a lot of you are lying about your origin. Like, you really don't know the history of what you do. Many of you don't know that the history of KMBP, IPO, Mondio, you know, uh, what's this other one? PSA. That stuff is all a derivative of something. It's not the originator, right? Even if you breed a dog, you can say, I am the ambassador of the breed. But you can't say this is my breed, right? You can say this is the line I've developed, this is my line, right? But you can't say you are the originator of the breed because you didn't create the breed. You're an ambassador of the breed. I remember Mr. Lloyd, bless his heart, he passed away. He was working with the Connie Corsos, and he would always say, I'm the ambassador of the breed. He never said, I created the line. He never said anything. He never took any credit for that. He said he was an ambassador. An ambassador is a representation of someone else. For example, if an ambassador of the United States goes to talk to another country, they don't say, well, this is what I think. They say, it is the position of the United States of America. They're an ambassador. They don't speak on their own behalf. They speak on behalf of the country. So, who are you representing? What is your origin? Right? If you say to me, what's your origin? I will go all the way back to Lieutenant Earl Jones, right? Because that is my origin. And what makes it legitimate and not a contradiction for the statement I made earlier, if you play it back, is because Lieutenant Earl Jones was the founder of the technique. So my origins come from the founder. But before I could get to the originator, I had to go to his minion. People like Gypsy. And I always make this mistake, so forgive me because I'm not really trying to do chronological order. I'm just putting it out there. But really, I'd have to go James Stratton. That's Michael Stratton's dad, Gypsy. That's him. That's his dad. He was the one that brought me in. Okay? So I was working at a research facility, and the guy named Les, I don't know if his last name was Baker or what, but it seems like that's it. But anyway, he told me, young man, until you pursue what you love, you will never be fulfilled. I quit my job. And I had a really high paying job in research. And so my point is that that was my beginning. But there were so many people who participated in where I am today and how I think, whether it was negative or positive, they played a role. Right? Right? And so, you got Lieutenant Earl Jones, But before I got to get to Lieutenant Earl Jones, this is how I was able to determine that Lieutenant Earl Jones was the truth, because I had been to so many untruths, and yet those were my origins nevertheless, right? Like Leon Lewison, he's a Jew-ish guy, right? And he had a guard dog agency called International Guard Dogs, Chicago, Illinois. I went to work for him. I was the right-hand man, right? And I got a chance to explore different things I thought about when it comes to what a dog should do in protection. I didn't do too bad. Because at that time, I wasn't making guard dogs. I wasn't making personal protection dogs. But you got a long list of people. You've got Scorpio, Gypsy, Lacey Sanders. And I'm only mentioning them because they always come to my mind first. But they weren't there first, right? One of the most pivotal people, right, in my origins, in my growth process, was Joe Kidd. Now, I skipped way up there because I was in it way before I met Joe Kidd. I was in it. But Joe Kidd was pivotal. He was pivotal. The first major change that came through that way. He saw me walking down the street with Sonny Bonecrusher. Right? So if I had Sonny Bonecrusher, then I had to know somebody else in the dog world because I got Sonny Bonecrusher when I was at the pro shop. I bought him from Grace Dean for $165. See? But I met Joe Kidd. He was pivotal. He had a lot of standards, Guy had real high standards. Real professional. Real professional. And he was a guy I admired that brother. I liked everything about him. Way he dressed, he always sharp, Unless who was out there training dogs, everybody got down for their crown when it came to training dogs. Joe Kidd was a sharp man. And we used to do this thing called law dogging. He made it up. But if he went, I wanted to go. Right? And daggone me, Joe came one day with his sharp station wagon, and we had this stick with a noose on it. And we would take that noose and stick it out the window and catch the stray big dogs that was good looking. And Joe would say, we're going to get that one. And Joe was the driver. And so I hang out the car. I could trust Joe. Joe could hit a corner. And daggone me, I'd be right on there. We'd be rolling, boy, in the middle of the night, rolling, catching dogs. So we came on with some dogs. But, boy, we went after this one dog. It took us 3 months to catch that dog. 3 months. We tracked that dog. We finally got her. I mean, she was gorgeous. She was big. How big was she? I tell you what. You think of how big is to you, and that's how big she was. She was beautiful. You think about how beautiful is to you, and she was beautiful. And she was a German Shepherd. I said that right. Because I always say we say German Shepherd. Right? She was smart and super aggressive. These are the times when you learn about things when it comes to animal behavior that tells you a lot of stuff people say today is a lie. Because we lazily say, I taught that dog to bite. If you hear that from anybody, including me, it's a lazy statement. More accurately, we should say we helped to develop that dog's ability to bite, right? But my point is, this dog, she displayed all the traits. Like, when an animal is getting ready to kill, they move with a speed that is so lightning fast. You ever seen those movies with werewolves? And the werewolf move like that? Well, when a dog is actually going to kill and he's a feral dog, he's out there, that's the kind of speed you move with. That's the kind of intent you move with. You don't see those dogs doing that on the field when they do protection. You don't see that. When they bite, they use their whole mouth. They bite with their tenacity and their intent to do harm with one blow. If the dogs would hit you who are playing protection the way the dog does when he or she is in the kill mode, right? I call it dog drive. If you've ever seen two dogs fight, big ones, get you some big ones. They fight. They bleeding like a stuck hog. You pull them apart and they trying to break loose to get back. Their teeth are protruded. They look 20 times longer. Mouth full of blood. They don't want to stop. That's dog drive. Now just imagine a dog going after a man like that. None of you know how to teach that. You ain't been through nothing. You have not been able. You don't know how to teach a dog to defend with dog drive. Because when they come at you with dog drive, you're gonna die. Guys, you gotta stop thinking now. When they're fighting each other, they're fighting not to throw the most jabs and get the most points. They're fighting to the death. Right? Some of them are so unbalanced. If you reach in there and grab them, they'll turn around and bite you. I've seen illustrations where dogs were fighting each other and the person tried to intercede and they turn around and turn on the person with dog drive. That person be lucky to live. Because dog drive is another level. And you're talking about protection. Right? So this dog was coming. Joe went in and got her to come out. So since I was a protection guy, I had to be out there waiting for the dog to come at me. Now remember, this dog is coming with dog drive. When she came past me, I hit her with that noose and flipped her. And we got her. My point is this. What did you start off with? Are you starting off with a lie or the truth? Because whatever you start out with, that's what you're going to end up with. Right? So you got guys like Dewey's Dobermans. You got Dewey from Chicago. You got Dave Robinson. You got, what's that one guy's name, Joe? What's his name? Over there in South Chicago? Don Anderson. You got Don Anderson. You got, man, there's so many people I met in the dog world. Before I ever got to where I'm talking about Gypsy and all, that was way before them. Right? But when I got to the point where I knew I was dealing with the absolute truth, the one thing I knew at that point what people were trying to keep me away from, when I met them, I knew. I knew. Because I had never seen anything like it. It blew my mind. If it was crack, I was hooked. I was hooked. I was mesmerized. I studied so hard. I worked so hard. I did everything that needs to be done. You know? And all praise be to the Father. I'm just trying to tell you, if you don't know the origin, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? I know the origin. I know who I started. I know everybody's name. I know their kids. I know why Scorpio invented the Canis Panther. Origin. Right? You know? I know why Gypsy Stratton was as good as he was, and a lot of people don't know this, but I know, and I know because he told me. That's why I know. But I would have knew that without even him telling me, because his dad was a. I'm not talking about working no dog. I never seen him work too much. I seen him work a little bit, but not too much. But I'm talking about his whole disciplinary process. He was cold. He didn't have no time for nonsense. Right? You didn't talk back to him. Right? I'm just saying. Where's your origin? If you're starting out with mix this and mix that. For example, a lot of you are just like a church, right? The church get mad at somebody. This video a little long, but I'm not going to stop. Maybe I'll cut it a few times, okay? But the church get mad at some guy because he didn't say something they like, and they go somewhere and start another church. They got 6 members. And then them people get mad that they got 24 members and they break up because they really want to be the leader, but they didn't say nothing, so then they start another church. And that's how you got KMBP, IPO, Mondio, PSA. All of them is from the big church. They're derivators. In dogs, you know who that is? That's Schutzen. That's who that is. So most of you come out of Schutzen and you don't even want to admit it because you know what, some of you can't admit it. You don't know. You can't admit something you don't know. Your origin comes from Schutzen. And anybody that comes out of my generation, before they got to Lieutenant Earl Jones, their origin was Kohler, the Kohler method, a white boy. And he was cold-blooded. That was the coldest white boy I ever saw with a dog. There was a guy down in Indiana named Rudy Drexler, white boy. He was cold. But he did more bomb searching and stuff like that. You understand what I'm saying? What's your origin, man? You don't have no history. You've been around for 2 years. You don't have no history. You got money, but you ain't got history. And money don't entitle you to history. Right? Right? So, what's your origin? Because right now you're starting out with a lie. I'm not going to go too far because I got some material that's being made right now, and it's going to reveal some things that's not going to come from me because I'm prejudiced. Right? It's going to come from a third party so that I can add a little bit more leverage to the process and help the dog world benefit and help customers be able to get a better product. Help people to educate themselves better, because when they say I'm educating myself, they're really just watching YouTube videos and asking guys to tell them stuff they already heard or tell me what I want to hear. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear when you come to me. I'm going to tell you what the truth is. Now, if you like the truth, you'll love the trainer. Right? So you got to remember that if you can't tell me, if you can't tell the person that's trusting you with their life what the origin is of what you're doing, you really don't know anything. You just bought a suit and got in it. Right? A suit is really only supposed to be used for 2 things: bite radius and bite pressure. Right? Bite radius and bite pressure. So when you finalize your training, right, and you can't because you start with what you're supposed to finish with, right? So how many people do you know go get a car, they get the car fixed up by a top mechanic, he's known everywhere, and he comes over to their house the next week after and paid for the car, went home, getting ready to go to work, and he said, hey, I just came over. Oh, how you doing? Yeah, the car's running fine. Oh, no, I came over to test your car. Oh, they don't know. Oh, okay, cool, test the car. Next day, get ready to go to work. He at the door again. Hey, I came to test your car. He's like, damn, 2 days, but okay, give him good service. Third day, they don't see him. Oh, I guess everything's okay. And then they get off work, they're ready to go home, and he's standing next to my head. I'm going to test your car. I want to test your car. I want to test it. Like, what? Nobody tests your car 3 days in a row after they're done. They're done. They test it when they're done. So if you're using a suit and a sleeve, you testing every damn day. And you should be testing every day. But that tells me your program got holes in it like Swiss cheese. Right? Because a suit is only for one thing: bite radius, bite pressure. That's it. The dog shouldn't be biting no damn sleeve or no suit. Unless unless he or she is a show dog. And they are designed for a sport. That's the only way. That's the only way. So, again, I'm going to close like this. I might revisit this. What are you starting out with? Because whatever you start out with, that's what you end up with. If you start with a lie, you end up with a lie. If you start out with the truth, you end up with the truth. All right? Shalom.